First off, my name is Jacelyn Salabye. She Kiani Nishla Tachini Bashichin Tobaha Edishache do Twitchini Edishanala Akutastan Shalom. So I am Towering House. I'm born for Red running into the Water clan, and my maternal grandfathers are Edgewater, and my paternal grandfathers are Bitterwater. So that is who I am as a Navajo Diné woman and a mother. And so tonight's conversation, we are going to talk about self-care and self-respect. And you're welcome to chime in at any point to provide your comments, to ask questions. Since you're the only one on here, I know that we had some confusion with the time and I was trying to get into the um to the room, and so there was a little bit of confusion. But we finally made it. So you're welcome to join in and ask questions and just treat it as a conversation. So that's the way we'll do it tonight. Um,
Okay.
so my name, Jacelyn Salabye. I'm originally from the southwestern part of the Navajo Nation, which is located in Arizona, and
Mm.
it's closer to the Winslow, Arizona,
Oh,
portion of the state. And so I've been a resident of Flagstaff, Arizona for about 3 years, and then here in Winslow the past year living with my mom and being here with her. Um, you know, it's part of our duties as children to take care of our parents. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And my daughters, I have three daughters. My oldest is 23 and my youngest is 6. So it's a wide range, wide spectrum of training up these young women into successful women, at least trying to, right? And that's our always our good vision that we have for our children and our younger generations to train them up in good, healthy, strong individuals. So that's my goal as a parent. And then just my background, I have 20 plus years in working as a social worker and working in suicide prevention, grants, grant management, grant writing. Um, and currently my role, I provide technical assistance for a indigenous owned company, and we provide technical assistance to tribal nations across the United States and up into Alaska. So at any given moment, I could be across the country. So we do facilitation. We work with a curriculum called Gathering of Native Americans. I don't know if you've heard of that. You might have seen it in your area, but we use it. It's a 4-day curriculum and it focuses on community healing. And so we move through certain pillars. So the first pillar is belonging. And this portion, basically, you get to know each other, right? But in looking at it's basically taking you back into how we as humans have grown or should have grown through this process of life, right? Some of those teachings and some of those things that we should have learned. So we go through belonging, mastery, which is gaining of the tools and talking about what happened to us as opposed to what's wrong with us, right? And then we go through interdependence. How are we going to work together? Because sometimes we're very siloed. We're very, well, that's your job, that's your job. That's not my job. So looking at interdependence of how we're going to work together to create that healing in our community. And then going into generosity and practicing that spirit of generosity and giving back. And so there's certain portions in our life that we exhibit those certain behaviors, right? So belonging, we might exhibit that in when we first get into this world, when we're first born. We might have certain customs, teachings, sayings, prayers that welcome us into our families, into our communities. And then mastery is kind of learning those new skills as a young child, adolescent. You're learning, you're gaining information, you're um, honing in on your specific skill and what that looks like, right? And then as we move into elderhood, we are giving back what we've learned, right? We're teaching the younger generation, we're giving back those skills and that knowledge and those songs, those prayers, and those teachings. And it might be stories, right? So that's kind of like the work that I do. I do a lot of trainings um, and adapting trainings so that they're culturally specific. Things like trauma informed care, or things like what else is there? Cultural competency, not competency, cultural understandings and awareness for agencies that need more of that information for those who are non-native, you know. So that's basically my role outside of here. But it is a pleasure to work with American Indian College Fund and support you all in providing more information about mental health. And I get into mental health a little bit more when it comes to advocating and educating. I love talking about mental health. So, this is basically what we go through when we come together. I really try to have you all speak and talk. Sometimes I use another platform called Menti, and we might use that tonight and have a little conversation since um, Susan and Richard has now joined us. And so the two of you, we can come off mute and talk about some of these things that we might be seeing in our families, or we might be experiencing personally. We might have seen it out in the community. We might have friends and family who have gone through these things. So we'll talk about a little bit more about those and provide some examples. So when we usually conduct some sort of gathering, we usually come into the circle and we welcome everyone into the circle. And the purpose and the meaning of the circle is very sacred to a lot of tribes across the nation. And the way we gather is um, has a certain meaning, right? But it also gives us a level playing field where we're looking at each other eye to eye, where we see each other as more of comrades as opposed to like in the work setting where it's like I'm your supervisor or I'm this or I'm that, right? We have these certain positions that we would hold. Um, and so I really like coming into the circle because you can step back and kind of relinquish those titles and leave those titles and that ego at the door and just focus on who's in the room and the spirit of everyone there. So I really enjoy coming into the circle. So that's what we're going to do tonight. And we usually have a brief introduction and really just going into some of those positive intentions that we have for tonight and letting you know that, I might say things differently and they might come out a different way. And I mean no harm. I don't mean to offend anyone. I know that we come from different parts of the country, and so if you need to clarify, I don't mind asking questions or maybe making a comment of how you say it or do it in your area, and that's perfectly fine. You can put that in the chat, and it gives me an idea of kind of what to be aware of and kind of what to um, possibly take into consideration when I'm in your area or for the next circle. So, introductions. I know that I always say this connecting, right? We always want to make a connection wherever we are because that's who we are. We are people of relationship and connection to everything and everyone around us. Like I said, my clan earlier when we first started, that's making a connection to each and every one of you of who I am and how you relate to me. And so the same thing when we go out to when we go for a walk, even if it's outside your door, we're making connection with the sun, with the air, with the Mother Earth, with everything that's around us, our neighbors, if we have neighbors, our animals. And so if you could make that connection with those who are in the room and provide your name If you know your clan, provide your clan if it's appropriate. And then tell us a little bit about your tribe. Where is your home? Where is your homeland? Because I could say I'm from Winslow, Arizona, but I'm really from a place on the reservation, right? What I call Lower Greasewood, Arizona. And that's where my grandmother, my great grandmother's from, right? So it can have different meanings. So whatever is appropriate for you, where your home is, you can put that in. And there's that saying, right? Home is where the heart is. Where's your heart? What college do you attend? I know a lot of you have are either in different places and spaces where you go to school. You might have been a transplant, or you might be right in your hometown where you grew up. So put your college in there. I like to include area of study. That's always fun to see who is all studying what. And there will be some commonalities. I like to have you all see and look and identify who is in your similar field. And then here's a fun question. I know tomorrow is a major candy day. What's your favorite Halloween costume? I know that we would dress up for work events or, when you're kids, you're so excited to dress up and what am I going to be for Halloween and what should I be and you're trying to figure it out. So go ahead and provide that. If you want to come off mute, I welcome you to come off mute and introduce yourself and share. If you feel comfortable, I'm open to that. And for those of you who showed up a little bit later than my introduction, I did introduce myself. Um, and right now I'm in Winslow, Arizona, and my home. Sometimes we say my home is where my mom is, huh? Or sometimes in Navajo, Diné, they say my home is where my umbilical cord is buried. And so there's really many different interpretations to home. Um, and it's beautiful. I love it. I love to think about the many aspects that we have of where is home. So, what college did you attend? Just for your information, I attended Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, which is probably 45 minutes from here. And my I also attended Arizona State University to get my master's in social work. So, yeah, I always like to say take note of individuals in the room, look at their names, look at where they come from. I know Indian country is small. You might run into someone down the road. You might run into them at a conference, at a training. You never know, right? I was just saying that it's really important to identify this isn't just for me, right? This isn't just for others to know, but it's also really to understand who you are as an individual. And we get into the conversation about, self-respect. And a lot of the times, you in your teachings, in talks and discussions with your relatives, they really go into depth about your clan. And I know as Dane, it's really stressed the importance of knowing your clan, knowing where you come from, knowing the strengths of your clan, the responsibilities, all of that pertains to your clan, right? And so really take a deep dive on where that comes from, some of those stories that are attached to your clan. What are the strengths of your clan, right? I know that my clan is Towering House Kia'ani. And so what are those clans? I know a lot of the times they say, oh, your strength is a leader. Or sometimes we hear those stories, but go back and ask, what are those stories that I have? And finding your strengths might lead you in that direction. And so over time, I really saw, taking that leadership role and being really interested in stepping into those roles. You know, growing up as a young child, it was like, I'm not gonna talk or say anything in my classes. And so everything just really pushed me and challenged me to speak up more and share my voice and share, go, 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 you know? And so it really did develop into um, becoming a leader in just different capacities and different roles. So I share some of my own experiences as examples. I know you all have your specific examples, and it's basically the reason why I share is to jog where you come from and to ask yourself those questions. So do that as we move along and as we go through this discussion. So I'm going to move into this small discussion. You're welcome to put in the chat. You're welcome to come off mute and ask the question, what is mental health to you? You're welcome to put it in the chat. If you want to come off mute, what does mental health mean to you? What does it look like to you? What are some of those positive words that come to mind or images? What are some of those negative things that you hear or that come to your mind? I'm just going to be talking a little bit while you all put in the chat what mental health means to you. I know that mental health, from my experience in working in the field of social work, you know, just working with youth coming up and trying to figure out my footing as a young adult in the world, seeing children working with parents who were in the system, who had their children taken out of their home, and trying to really see how do we put people back together and how do we help them um, to be happy, successful, healthy parents, right? And a lot of the times it would go back to mental health, that holistic focus of health in general, the mental, physical, social, spiritual, and emotional, right? Um, so it is an interesting discussion, and a lot of the times mental health was stigmatized. It was thought of as, you know, being crazy or, you know, just different words that you have heard throughout your time. And so anytime someone would say, "Oh, I got to go over to mental health," and, you know, you get those looks or like, "What?" You know, "What's wrong?" You know? And so I've seen the shift across the years to many different programs coming up and saying we need to destigmatize mental health. We need to learn how to talk about some of these things in a healthy way, right? Mental health is a part of us. And so in the last, I want to say 10 years, it's really shifted and it's really amazing to see that we can outwardly talk and discuss mental health without feeling like it's a bad word. I'm seeing in the chat some responses. Okay, I want to go back to mental health. It's a responsibility that we have to nurture ourselves. Yes, mental health. What it means to me is having a healthy lifestyle for myself and family, being able to communicate in a positive way. Correct? Yep. Awesome. So I'm going to move into the next bullet point. So usually when we talk about mental health, I usually like to use a medicine wheel when we have this discussion. I'll show it in the next slide. And we usually like to include that with the 8 components of health, and it's more of a Western perspective. Um, and then mental health is your overall health and balancing life in a healthy way. Yep. Finding that healthy balance. And as a lot of the work that we do, we always talk about maintaining that healthy balance, right? Awesome. I appreciate your input and your response. So I'm going to go into the next portion. I know that I got to check the time because I always like run up against time and I'm like, I want to share more. So, mental health here is the exact definition. This comes from the World Health Organization. To me, it's not losing my head when judging my when when juggling my responsibilities. Maybe judging too. Just kidding. Um, awesome. Yes. So mental health has always been ingrained, and basically mental health. This is not the exact definition. Sorry, on a different slide is the exact definition, but it's basically how we cope and handle everyday life, right? And that's basically mental health. And really understanding how we respond to others, whether that's social or through our relationships, our daily life, or through work relationships, right? And so this right here emphasizes the importance that mental health has always been ingrained in our teachings, our prayers, our ceremonies, through various activities, right? You can think of some of those teachings that you were taught when you were younger. And forgive me if you weren't brought up in your home. Maybe you were adopted or you were relocated. That's okay. You still have some of those teachings that were taught to you and shared to you that applied to this very piece, right? So what are those daily teachings that you were taught? Sometimes we were taught, like, get up at a certain time, get ready, go run, go walk, go outside and greet the air, take in those deep breaths, take in 4 deep breaths and say hello to the universe, right? Or say your prayers, your positive intentions. Um, I want to read the chat. To me, it means knowing myself, having a connection with myself and my inner thoughts, knowing myself to understand and recognize my patterns, checking in to see when I'm out of balance. Exactly. Awesome. Thank you for that. It really is. It is really making sure that we are on that positive path and that we are doing things to making sure that we're living in a healthy way, right? Um, there's a lot of different things that pertain to mental health. Of course, the statistics are all too real. I mean, we all know them, right? We all know the negatives that we hear about our mental health across Indian country and the high rates of this and that. And I won't repeat them too much. I want to focus on some of the resiliency that we have to overcome these. I did hear that from a study a couple of days ago that the rate of suicide across Indian country has decreased by 15%. So that is really awesome. Um, and then some of those impacts that our mental health have on us, positive and negative, and really destigmatizing and making it okay to talk about and making it okay to talk about to our kids, to our families, to our communities, and having those discussions. And then creating that healthy space. A lot of the times, I like to create a list of norms and guidelines that we can use to have these discussions. So, most of the time when we come together, I say, let's create some norms. Let's sit down and talk about how do we create a safe space. So, I want you all in the chat to put in what do you need to create a safe space in this time right here, right now. I know we're all virtually here. What do you need in this space to create a safe environment, right? What is that? So, most of the time, we have confidentiality, we have listen without judgment. I know that a lot of the times, we come from different walks. We come from different spaces, different places. We have different teachings. We come from different tribes, bands, or nations. And so some of the things we do might be different or opposite. So put in the chat, what do you need? Is it respect and how does that look? Is it undivided attention? Is it being focused? Is it listening, not to respond, listening wholeheartedly. Kind of think about that a little bit more as we move into the next portion. I know that you all have been doing a great job in sharing, and maybe a norm is participating and being attentive to the chat. One thing I like to include is encouragement. I feel like encouragement of others is highly beneficial. People that I feel are willing to lend an empathetic ear to whatever I have on my mind without judgment. Having no judgment and listening with empathy. Um, Respecting others, you have different ideas. Yep. We all have different ideas, right? Different thoughts. Awesome. What was I saying? Oh, my brain just being kind, knowing someone is listening and having an open mind. Yep. Being kind goes a long way. There's all too much happening in our world today, right? There's a lot happening. So at least we can be kind to one another. And this really helps to open up some of those things that we talk about. Some of us get the teachings, some of us don't get the teachings, right? And we as Native people, we've gone through, if you look generations back, there's many things that we've gone through as a people, right? Where there's been many policies put into place, there's been many events that have happened that impacted communities, families, and individuals. And some of us might still carry on some of those things through our bloodlines. Um, you might still see some of those traumas playing out today in our families. And I think it's important that we talk a little bit about that piece to understand where we are as individuals, to understand where we are as a family and as communities. I want to read the chat a little bit more. So I listen wholeheartedly without judgment. I try not to compare situations. I try to validate others' points of view. Yes. Awesome. And then compassion, boundaries, non judgmental, and offering support. Many come different family dynamics, so being able to understand and listen is important. Asking for that understanding, right? I feel like the points that you hit are spot on for me. Mutual respect is highest for me. Also, listening and bringing ideas to the conversation. Yep. Your voice is important to this conversation because it could help another individual. Or keep quiet if I have a different belief. Yeah, knowing when, right? Knowing that healthy balance of having a conversation or sitting in a discussion. When do you step forward and when do you step back? Knowing that is really important. Incorporating humor into conversation in a mutual relevant topic. Yeah, humor is really important, right? I was on site last week. Um, and once we got our clanships all straightened out, that's where the humor comes in. And oh my goodness, I haven't laughed in a long time like that. It was a good laugh. And just teasing and joking one another made the days go by. And it creates that sense of bonding, right? It's really, really awesome. So I'm going to move into the conversation. But I first want to finish up that little piece about where we've come from, where we've walked as a people, and then coming into today. I think, as an individual looking at her history of her family and having an understanding of some of these things from a Western perspective. Some of those historical traumas, we call them historical, and really they're playing out today. they're present day things that are happening to us, right? And a lot of the work that I do outside of here, I'm working with communities to facilitate healing, to come to that conclusion that yes, I am accountable for myself and responsible for who I am as an individual to contribute to the overall healing of my community. And so, really looking at this as looking at yourself first and foremost, because what do they say? You can't help others if you don't help yourself first, right? You have to be healthy and well in order to help others. And sometimes a lot of us go into the helping environment, the helping um, sphere of work, and we're able to give, 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 give. And being an Indigenous woman, that's something that I was taught again and again. You give, you help your relatives, provide this and you provide that. So that way it helps the whole community, right? And so that's something that we're taught with and establishing those boundaries that create a healthy living, right? Because if I'm giving constantly, doing something, I'm going to burn out. It's just who I am. Super, I'm not superwoman, you're not Superman, right? And so how do we create that healthy balance? And that's the reason why I put the self inventory up there, is really looking at yourself, identifying what I'm doing as an individual. So in this medicine wheel, I like to use the medicine wheel in this and I put in the 8 components of health. So the 8 components of health, you can kind of Google that or the information, I can put it. Oh, there's a slide at the end that has resources. So the 8 components of health comes from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and they break it down for you. They also create a self-care plan that you can download. It's awesome stuff. So you can actually just do this in your thoughts. You can get a journal out if you want to write it down on a piece of paper. You can even get out your phone and use that. But really sit down and think about, what am I currently doing that is working right now in each one of these areas. In this specific one, there's a question here. How do boundaries look in each area? And that is pertaining to self-respect and self-care, right? Because creating those healthy boundaries helps us to put up those fences to keep us safe, right? You can put up a fence or whatever you want to call it. Put up a sphere that keeps you safe. So how are you going to keep yourself safe and healthy? So physically, socially, looking at what is currently happening in your life physically. So I ran across an individual who um, was in grad school and was on the dean's list, like the president's list, like all of these lists, right? They were like 4.0 GPA. They were getting thousands of dollars in scholarships, right? Just going at it. Boom, 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 boom. And this individual said, I wasn't focused on anything else. I was focused on being the best and getting as much scholarships as I could. And it took him about a year where he started to realize that his physical health was declining. He was getting ulcers. His he was getting blood clots. He was getting respiratory issues because he was so focused on, whether that's the occupational piece or the financial piece, he was so focused on this core piece right here that everything else just kind of fell to the wayside. And so it resulted in him experiencing some physical discomforts. He had to get surgery, he had to go through um, many things. He had to take a year off of school, and so his emotional health started to decline and cause some depression. And um, even though he was really smart, right? Intellectually, he's really, really smart. He was suffering, and that's when he turned to his spiritual side, and he had to really look at himself and see, how do I revamp myself And how do I focus on maintaining my physical health, following those directives, right? Healing himself physically. That way he could start to really understand where he was as an individual and honing in on this spiritual aspect, his environment, the emotional piece. He had to go to therapy, his intellectual piece. Yes, that's always there. Um, and he found that to be true. And he said, yeah, school will always be there and I'll always have this knowledge within me. But my physical health, I can't turn that back if it goes too far, right? So this is the example that I use when we talk about creating healthy boundaries. And then the other one is, we're all strong Native women, we're all strong Native men, and we carry certain roles. And a lot of the times you hear about our um, Native women, just to see across Indian country, a lot of our Native women have to step up, and I am so happy our Native men are here today to stand beside us and assist us with some of these things that we're trying to do, whether that's raise children, create homes, sustain our communities, sustain our tribes, our nations, right? And so some of us have to carry all of those boulders, right? Raising kids, paying bills, going to school, that emotional support for our children, our families, our moms, our aunties, our uncles, and providing spiritual assistance when needed for ceremonies or for prayer, right? And so some of us are carrying a million boulders and we're trying to walk with those and it creates stress, right? And we're carrying all of the stress in our bodies physically, we're carrying it mentally, we're carrying it emotionally, and it might weigh on us spiritually. And so understanding where you have to take some of those boulders off. Maybe it's leading a group. You have to kind of set that down for a minute, right? Or maybe it's learning how to walk in two worlds. Yep, it really is. And if you are very much in tune with your upbringings, a lot of the things that we do as Native peoples, it's having a responsibility to whether it's to our clan families or our ceremonial roles or, different events that we might have dedication to, whether that's song or dance. And so really understanding where you stand at, where you are on this self-inventory. Maybe it's writing a couple notes here and doing this right now on your paper and writing a couple of notes about where you need to create some of those boundaries. Is it financial? Do I need to learn how to maintain self-control so I stick within my budget? Is it intellectually creating a healthy boundary that I'm only going to be studying up until 11 p.m. and then I'm going to go to bed, setting my alarm that at that time so I can get in bed and I'm not going to go and do other things. What does that look like for you? So go ahead and take a minute. You can think about it. What do you need to do to create that healthy boundary? Or what are some of the stressors that are coming up for you? You can write that down too, and that'll help jog your memory to or jog your thoughts on how you need to create healthy boundaries. And I know that this day and age, we talk a lot about safety. We talk a lot about um, what does that look like in our communities today? Because some of these things have been broken, right? Um, and how do we reconnect some of those things, but also how do we keep ourselves safe? So I went through some examples and I want to read the chat. I'm learning the Anishinaabe way of being now. I didn't have the privilege of being exposed to my culture and my upbringing. Yeah, it's true. I've been exposed to our language, um, but I wasn't, directly taught, like, repeat or say this or told, you need to speak it or you need to talk it, repeat after me. Or I wasn't necessarily told to talk in our language. And so growing up, becoming an adult, it's like, okay, I want to learn, I'm trying to learn, and it is a journey. And so, where does that fall on my medicine wheel? Maybe intellectually and socially, I start to make that connection back to my language, or spiritually too. It could encompass all of those pieces. Thank you for sharing your reconnecting to your cultural upbringing. Okay, so I want to um, really tie together, the importance of doing self-inventory, identifying your healthy boundaries, because creating those healthy boundaries really is creating that self-respect, right? So those healthy boundaries are the limits that you set between yourself, other people, um, places, spaces, due to thoughts, activities, and things that aren't in your best interest, and basically for your overall self-care. So it does prevent you from being taken advantage of or being manipulated. Um, and if you noticed how we were talking about establishing those norms and those guidelines, you can take that same piece and establish it with your children, with your significant other. And it's a really good tool because it is basically establishing those ground rules for maintaining a healthy relationship. I know at times we'll have discussions, um, and we'll have teachings from our loved ones or relatives about some of these pieces, like talking in a good way. And you learn it through certain events. Elders will bring it up and saying, you talk like this, or you act like this, you act like a certain way. And so along the way, you get bits and pieces of how to maintain those healthy relationships. And I don't know if any of you have gone through, certain wedding ceremonies, and you're going to sit there for hours and being lectured on how to have a healthy relationship. And so you hear this again and again and again, but really understanding that and putting that into to place and practice with your loved one, right? Because a lot of us aren't told this is what a healthy relationship looks like. We might not have seen it growing up. We might have seen the opposite. And so some of our loved ones might have shown us what not to do, in a relationship. And now is our time to reclaim that healthy relationship and those healthy approaches. So I'm going to go back to the chat again and read. So I am learning from my family about our ancestors and where we come from. Awesome. It's great. In my job, it is a stressful environment, and I have learned to separate work from home. My mother resonates in me daily to pray and know when to say no. After a stressful time, I lean to my spirituality, smudge, and hand it over because I will not carry what I can't control. Awesome. That's a great example of looking at the spiritual aspect of yourself. And then, looking at your social piece and looking at family and friends and your support. It's learning how to adapt during change, knowing some things are out of my control, but staying positive through prayer and self talk. Journaling has helped me a lot as well. Awesome. I appreciate you sharing. That self talk is really important. I know a lot of the times we automatically turn to the negative, right? And maybe that's creating a a healthy boundary, not a selfie. Maybe that's creating a healthy boundary within yourself is saying, putting putting up that thought of I'm not going to talk negative to myself, or I'm going to try to rid of get rid of some of those negative words or those negative thoughts that come into my head, right? So every time I have a negative thought, maybe I'm automatically quickly twisting it to make it a more positive approach, right? So as we move into the next portion, I know it's getting down to the last 20 minutes. So I want to talk about that is a great point. I feel out of touch of using spirituality as a way to release negative thoughts or stresses. When I get out of touch, I feel isolated. Hmm. And resonating with someone else's comment. So okay, I want to not go to this. I'm going to reshare something different. So what I want you to do is go to this Menti. I'm going to present this and let me reshare my screen. If you all haven't used Menti, you can scan the QR code using your phone, or you can go to menti.com. Let me share this. And you can enter in the code 19651448. So let me press share so we can get to this. So you can scan that QR code, and we're going to talk about how do you practice self-respect. And I put the word self-respect in there because it can encompass everything we talked about today, right? We talked about self-care, we talked about mental health, we talked about creating healthy boundaries, which is essentially self-care, right? And self-care is intentionally advocating for yourself to create a healthy and well individual. So, how do you practice self-respect? I see one word: meditating to focus, awareness. Sometimes we think of self respect as self love, self care, and exercise. Let me move this up here. Actually, there we go. Value my sobriety. It's really important. Avoid negative situations. Self care, self respect, self love. I feel like they go hand in hand, right? And sometimes that self love, we don't know what that is until we get to our 40s or 30s. Sometimes our homes and our environment weren't built with love and care. Um, just kind of using as an example, growing up, hugs and I love yous weren't thrown around very easily. And so listening and hearing that as I got older, maybe in my 30s, it's really feels kind of strange at first. But really today now, that's every time I talk to a loved one, that's something that I say is I love you or I appreciate you or I missed you or just different things like that. So really getting into that practice of respecting others and then also identifying how that applies to you. How do I love myself? Going through that awareness, like we did that self inventory, is looking at how does love apply to me as an individual, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Let's see. I'm seeing activity in the chat. Good job on the sobriety. Keep going. Trying to balance my schedule where I still have time to do enough things I enjoy with school. Awesome. For me, I listen to my body. If it doesn't feel good, it probably doesn't resonate with my beliefs. Your body definitely will let you know. Yes. And doing that self inventory of what does my body look like when it's stressed or unbalanced? Because we can really tell when that's happening, right? When stress hits our body, what do I look like physically? Where do I hurt physically? Mentally? How does it impact me spiritually, emotionally? Because there are indicators. You're exactly right. And we talk a little bit about that in the previous wellness gatherings that we've had. We go through some of those indicators of stress, depression, anxiety, what it looks like, and where it's often held in our body and or some of the ways to identify and ways to cope. Um, so yeah, this that is a whole nother piece of this conversation, right? And I appreciate you for bringing that up. So we're going to go into the next question. I appreciate you sharing, and it gives others an idea of what you are experiencing, and it creates this sense of cohesion in the room that we're going through this together, not alone, right? So let's move into the next question and let's talk about what you will do to enhance your self love, self respect, self care. What are you going to do? What does that look like? And from this, whatever you put on here, you can really start to develop a plan. I always use negative thoughts as an example. And so I'll put on this one is to identify my negative thoughts and or reduce my negative thoughts. And that could include journal entries. It could include writing down right when I get that thought, writing it down in a journal. Um, Taking note of it through the day. I like to use my phone. I like to use notes a lot of the times, and I'll write down bits and pieces of what I'm thinking, or I'll draw something so that I can remember that throughout the day because I'm not getting any younger and my thoughts go quickly. My memory goes quickly. So, what will you do to enhance your self love, self respect? You can scan that QR code again or go to menti.com and enter in the code 19651448. I attend ceremony, sweat lodge, cedar ceremony, and I utilize behavior health, specifically holistic healing. Yes, that is awesome. I love that. Prayer, burning cedar. That's something that I often go to as well. To ensure I keep a positive attitude about myself. Awesome. Maybe we'll wait for one more and we'll move into a closing exercise where we'll do some deep breathing. Okay, letting others know when I need help and recognizing when I need time for myself. Hmm. That's a good one. Yes, I totally agree with that one. self-awareness, continue to smudge, and attend NEP. Yes, that's important. Consistency is important. Going to see therapists at my school, even if I am not in a bad place. Yep, you are correct with that one, right? I do my homework. It feels great when I complete an assignment. Yeah, and really finding what does complete you throughout your day. Finding those little joys throughout your day. And maybe that's putting it in a journal, like I was saying. Maybe you have a journal that focuses on some of those good things that you did through the day. I know I have a gratitude journal, and I just go through some of the good things I did today, and I set some positive intentions of some of the good things I'll do throughout my day. Um, it really does take those small baby steps. Yes, those small little steps to get through the day. And as soon as you make one step, even one step in your sobriety, you know how they say you take it one day at a time? The same with this, taking that one little step every single time. Not every situation needs a reaction, keeping my circle small, continuing sobriety. Yeah, not every situation needs a reaction. Yep. And it's okay to just be there, stay still. Yep. And keeping a small circle, and that's your self. That's for you, right? That's keeping you in line, that you don't need to have a lot of people, a lot of friends. Sometimes I struggled with that growing up, right? Like I thought I needed a lot of friends. I thought I needed this and that. And so when it came to like, oh, I only have two friends, it's like, no, it's okay. It's okay to have two friends. It's okay to have one friend. That's okay. And continuing your sobriety is very important. Even mapping out your sobriety using that medicine wheel and the way that you're going to maintain your healthy boundaries to maintain your sobriety, that could be good. I ask for help. Yes. Reaching out and asking for help is very important. How many of you can reach out and ask someone for help? Took me a long time because it was hard to go and ask for help for myself. And it was more of like, oh, I can do this myself, or oh, it's okay. I don't want to bother them. I don't want to be a burden, you know? And so, really taking that time to ask for help, to see a therapist, to seek out someone you can trust to share information with, who you know will keep that information to them. And it's really important because we do hear about those high rates of this and that. And it really is important that if you are struggling to reach out for help, if you need someone to talk to, reach out to your success coach, reach out to a loved one, trusted adult. Um, and if you really do need to go see someone, and if it's urgent, go to your local urgent care, or you can call 988. That's always there, as well as texting 988. And then if you need to go to a traditional practitioner or using any type of your medicines, you're welcome to do that. Um, let's see. I'm going to go over to the chat again. I am learning to ask for help. I have always been so persistent to the point of burnout. Not anymore. I will take all the help I can get. Yep. I was one of those who consistently go, go, go. Okay, I got this. I'll do this. Go, go, go. Yes, 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 yes. Learning how to stop, and say no. I know you mentioned saying no earlier. Practice saying no. Practice saying no because it takes time, right? Look in the mirror and say no. Practice it. Can you lend me $20? No, I cannot. It does take some practice. to straight out and say no. Or practice with another person, have them ask you something and just say no. And really identify how you feel. How does that feel to say no? Does it feel weird? Does it feel icky? Do you feel bad for saying no? That's really important. And if you practice the next time, it's easier, right? To say no. I use my tobacco. Yes. Using our medicines. And if you can take some time to think of what are your medicines? What are your medicines that you carry or that you go to? I know some of us go to the water or to our sacred mountains to pray, or we go to use our medicines that are beside us or with us. Some of us might smudge, right? Some of us might go to tobacco to say a prayer or offer some tobacco to the fire or cedar to the fire. So think about that. What are your medicines? Those are really important. So keep those in mind. I'd like to turn off my camera and I'm going to stop sharing. And we're going to go into a breathing exercise. So if you could find a place to sit or stand where you can kind of relax. If you need to move yourself, you're welcome. I'm going to turn off my video and get into position. If you need to sit down on a chair, you're welcome to sit down and put your hands on your lap. And maybe take a couple of deep breaths. So, what we're going to do just to get comfortable. So, what I want you to do is when I say take a deep breath in, what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in through your nose, okay? And then when I say take a deep breath out, you're going to breathe out through your mouth, okay? And we're going to do this a couple times. And what I want you to do right now is I want you to close your eyes if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, that's okay. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't feel safe doing that. So, what I want you to do is take a deep breath in through your nose. Take a nice deep breath in. Ready? And go. Now, exhale through your mouth. Okay. Now, the next time we breathe in deep, I want you to raise up your shoulders and move them back a little bit and bring your body straight upwards, right? And then when you exhale, I want you to let go of your shoulders and just let go of your arms. Let them hang to the side and just kind of let go of all the muscles in your body and just relax them, okay? So I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and then out through your mouth and just let go, let go, let go. And then we're going to do the same thing 2 more times. So when I say deep breath in through your nose, I want you to pull your whole body upward. And then when I say deep breath out, you let your whole body go. Okay, ready? Deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just let go. And then I want you to do it 1 more time. Deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Okay, and just let yourself fall, let your muscles fall. Just relax. Now, keeping your eyes closed, I want you to see yourself standing. You could be in your favorite place that is outdoors. So you're making a connection with Mother Earth, Father Sky. You're making a connection with the fire and with the water. You could put some sort of body of water in your thoughts there. Could be small, could be big, could be huge. It's all up to you. So now I think I have my place. I think I have where I want to be. Okay. So I'm standing with my feet in Mother Earth. You can wiggle your toes and make that connection. And I want you to recognize all the muscles from your toes to the middle of your foot, to the ball of your foot, straight into your ankle. If you want to do movement, you can. To your calves, to your knees, to your thighs, to your hips, to your waist, to your stomach, to your lower back, up your spine, to your shoulders, to your neck muscles, down through your arms, your fingers, to your fingertips, back up to your hands, your arms, to your shoulders, to your neck, to your face, to your lips, to your nose, to your eyes, to the top of your head, your scalp, back around to the back of your head. And I want you to see your environment, recognize all the elements that are in your environment, the sand or the earth beneath you, the grass or the dirt, the air. Take a breath in, breathe the air, hear the water trickle or the waves come in, feel the sun on your skin, the air blowing through your hair or your ears. And I want you to choose to bring in some colors into your body. And I'm going to say certain colors, and I want you to invite them in. And when I say invite them in, these are positive things. These are good things. These are healthy things. These are balanced things. And these four elements, they all have different colors that pertain to your environment. So when I say orange, you're going to think about the fire. And what does that fire mean to you? What does that bring you? What does it give you? What medicines does it carry? Is it strength? Is it courage? Is it tenacity? Is it empowerment? Is it fuel? You identify what it brings to you. So, what I want you to do is when I say take a deep breath in, what I want you to do is breathe in that color orange. And whatever you thought of, whether that's courage or strength, you're going to bring in all those good things. And I want you to fill your body up with that color. Okay? So you're going to imagine that orange. And so I want you to We're going to do 4 quick breaths and bring in that orange, okay? Ready? I want you to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. So bring in more of that orange. Ready? And take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. So when you breathe outwards, it's going inside of your body. Just imagine your body filling up with this color, whether that's courage or strength or humility or trust or safety, whatever you want to put into your body that you can think of the fire resembling, okay? And now we're going to do it 2 more times. Deep in through your nose, out through your mouth, and then in through your nose, out through your mouth. Okay, we have the orange filling our body. Now I want you to go to blue. You can see the blue. Whatever water that you have there, what does water mean to you? What does it bring you? Is it strength? Is it consistency? Think about it. And I want you to bring that all in. We're going to do 4 breaths. When I say breathe in, you're bringing the color in to your body. And when I say breathe out, you're making the color go all over your body. Okay? Ready? And take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay. Next one is yellow. This will be the air that includes like the sunbeams and the sun, so the sky. So whatever the sky and the sun represents to you, think about it. What does it bring you? What medicines does it carry for you? And I want you to breathe in 4 times and think of that yellow right now. And I want you to breathe it in to your body. And when you breathe out, you're filling your body with that, whatever it is you want to bring in. Ready? I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Again, in through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. One more through your nose, out through your mouth. And then our last one will be brown. And you think about our Mother Earth, and you think about the strengths that our Mother Earth carries and how fascinating Mother Earth is. What does it mean to you? What does it bring to you? What medicines or teachings does it bring to you? Now think about that and see the color brown. And I want you to breathe in. When I say breathe in the color brown and fill your body with that color when I say breathe out. Ready? You're going to breathe in and then breathe out. Breathe in and then breathe out. Breathe in. And then one more. Breathe in and then breathe out. Okay, you're just going to stand there for a minute with your eyes closed, and I want you to see yourself standing there in your environment, and I want you to repeat after me. I want you to say, I am perfect and complete just the way I am. I am perfect and complete just the way I am. I want you to say, I listen to my body's needs. I listen to my body's needs. I release tension. I am feeling better. I release tension. I am feeling better. And then I want you to say, I am worthy. I am worthy. And then I want you to see yourself and say, I love you. I love you. Now, what I want you to do is take one last breath in through your nose. I want you to lift up your whole body. And then when you're going to release, I want you to just let all of that, your muscles go and just soften your whole body. Okay. And that'll be the end of our breathing exercise. Ready? I want you to take a nice, long, deep breath in and release. Nice and long. And just feel your muscles soften every single muscle. And I want you to flutter your eyes slowly. And I want you to come back to your space, to your environment, slowly. And I want to tell each and every one of you that you are awesome, you're amazing. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here tonight and taking time out to practice self care, to learn a little more about yourself along with others. And I want you to know that each one of you have the right and you have the ability to be healthy and well and to achieve your goals, whatever those may be. You have that within you. And it's up to you as an individual to seek those out, that you are worthy, you are able, you are loved. And so, with that, I want to repost the survey into the chat. And I want to wish you a good night. I know that it was a fairly little bit over time, but that's okay. We all had a good time together. And it was really good seeing each and every one of you and hearing from you. So just go ahead and take that survey. I appreciate you all and have a good weekend. And with that, I'll say, Hogone. Thank you for being here.